and welcome to Jim and Ben's Movie Adventures. My name is Ben, and with me is...
Kevin! Did I do it?
That was a pretty good Kevin.
It was really good. For audio listeners, I did the hands because this week we watched Home Alone, the original, the OG, the 1990 Home Alone with Macaulay Culkin, and I'm very pleased that you picked it. So even though I'm sure everybody knows, but just in case they haven't, why don't you give us a synopsis about ye old Home Alone, and then we'll dive into our discussion. And I'm surprised, but I actually have a lot to say. So
I do too, in a weird way. But yeah, here we go. The McAllister family prepares to spend Christmas in Paris. On the night before their departure, their youngest son, Kevin, is ridiculed by his siblings and cousins due to his immaturity and selfish behavior. Kevin ruins family dinner with a scuffle with his older brother, resulting in him being punished by being sent to the attic bedroom. Frustrated, Kevin wishes his family would disappear. During the night, high winds knock the power out, causing alarm clocks to go off, which makes the family oversleep. In the confusion, in their rush to the airport, Kevin gets left behind. Kevin wakes to find the house empty, cars still in the garage, unaware that they had rented vans to go to the airport. Thinking his wishes come true, he's overjoyed. Kevin later becomes frightened by his eccentric next-door neighbor, Old Man Marley, rumored to have murdered his whole family. The McAllister family family home is cased by the wet bandits, Harry and Marv, a pair of burglars who have been breaking into houses in the neighborhood where families are on vacation. Kevin tricks them into thinking his family is home. His family finally realizes they've left Kevin behind as they land in Paris. Plans to return home are immediately scuppered as people discover that flights for the next 2 days are booked and the phone lines are still down due to the high winds. His mum is unsuccessful until she trades tickets to get back to Dallas, which is where they don't live because they're from Chicago. On her layover, she meets Gus Polinski, the leader of a band, who offers to let her travel with them to Chicago in a moving van on their way to Milwaukee. Cut back to Kevin on Christmas Eve. Harry and Marv, the wet bandits, finally realize Kevin is alone, and Kevin overhears them as they plan to break into his house. He starts to miss his family and talks to a local Santa Claus impersonator and asks if he could bring his family back for Christmas. Kevin attends a church performance of a choir and runs into Old Man Marley again, who proves the rumors about him are false. Kevin returns home, rigs the house with homemade booby traps, having Harry and Marv break in, spring the traps, and suffer the consequences. A whole bunch of shenanigans ensure. Kevin calls the police. Harry and Marv are ambushed, and they finally catch Kevin, but he is rescued by Old Man Marley, who hits them with a snow shovel. The police arrive. They arrest the wet bandits. Kevin's mum gets home just after that happens, and she only, which made me laugh because I never remembered it, she only just beat her whole family home because they were actually able to make a flight directly back to Chicago. That is the synopsis.
that is exactly what happens. Now, quickly give us some facts so that I can launch into what I want to say about Home Alone.
Released 1990, directed by Chris Columbus, screenplay by John Hughes, starring Macaulay Culkin, Joe Pesci, Daniel Stern, John what's his name? John Hurd? Yeah, Hurd. Catherine O'Hara, music, runtime of 119 minutes, budget 18 million, box office $476 million. Them's the facts.
Nice.
So Jim, you sound like you have a lot to say.
I'm more just... it had been a little while, not that long, to be honest, maybe 2 years since I'd seen Home Alone, but I think what I really enjoyed about this rewatch was looking at it with... This year I've been on about structure, and I've been on about plots, and I've been on about character motivations. It's just been a bit of a thing that I've just kind of focused my critique and criticism on. And man, this movie's tight. Like, this movie is just so tight. Like, it is literally a lesson in screenwriting economy where everything that happens sets something off. You'd love it. This is Chekhov's movie, you know? Where just everything that gets set up is then paid off later. And so many of the scenes are doing double or triple duty, whereby they're setting up a future plot point while also setting up a current character trait that also gets paid off later. So I really enjoyed it from that particular perspective of just looking at the tightness of the screenplay.
It is I have to agree, it's like a leapfrog plot, right? It kind of like, there's this bit of plot that leaps over that bit of plot, but then the plot it leaps over leaps back over to catch up to. It all connects back in. And this movie by all rights, should be a bit of a mess when you consider the plots they're trying to intertwine. There are effectively three and a bit stories that they're weaving together. So there's Kevin's story, there's the Wet Bandit story, and there's the story of his mum, which is, I think, the story that gets a little bit forgotten when people think about this movie, right? And they kind of interweave it. Any one of those stories could be the whole movie. Catherine O'Hara's flight back to her son and traveling across the world and having to bargain and rely on the goodwill of others to get home. That's a whole movie. That's a whole movie. Kevin at home alone, being kind of scared by the old man, making friends with the old man, that sort of life there is a whole movie. And then you've got the Wet Bandits, who probably aren't necessarily a whole movie by themselves, but could take up half a movie. Like, so you're right, it is very deft and nuanced. And I think it very clearly goes to show the kind of ability of both John Hughes and Chris Columbus, right? So they're the two minds that really came together to make this movie, both in script and direction. And it is I was about to say perfect. It's not perfect. There are flaws. But watching it this time, it really made me appreciate how perfect the circumstances that made this movie were. It's just all the pieces coming together at the right time in history, basically, for this movie to exist the way it does. Because it's a weird and goofy idea,
It's a
and people have
crazy
failed to make it since.
it's a crazy idea, and it really is an idea that required a singular vision, which I'm going to credit to John Hughes for
Yes,
that one
100%.
because again, look, Chris Columbus, I think he does a great job on the direction, but like I said, so many of the things are there in the writing, which and then obviously Chris Columbus then executes that and brings his own sort of magic to it, but I just really do think that the effort that they go to, and the other thing is, I think, sorry, I'll get back to that effort, but Home Alone, I think, often gets discredited, if you like. Sorry about the birds, by the way. We are talking about this Christmas movie. We live in Australia. I have no air conditioning, so today I'm just like, you know what? We couldn't be as far from a Chicago snow-filled Christmas as possible. And you know what? The windows are down. Everyone, you're just going to deal with it. Otherwise, it's like whatever. I had
Hey,
to. I had
I've
to.
turned my aircon off for this, so
Oh, well, there you go. You're going the opposite. I'm like, no,
yeah.
windows are coming down. I'm making this, I got to be somewhat comfortable. But look, what I was going to say was it is quite amazing how the movie gets a bit of a short shrift because they go, oh, it's silly. The burglars come and he does all these terrible things to them and it's just a silly movie. And I'm like, well, they put an awful lot of effort into this silly movie. The circumstances that transpire for the family to functionally forget him in a somewhat realistic way are pretty genius. So many things have to go wrong. The head count, the alarms, the idea that he's wished away his family so that he thinks a certain thing has happened, the idea that the parents are in first class and the kids are all back in coach. Like there is the idea that they got the shuttles instead of drove themselves. There are so many different things that they set up to
The
make
phone's
it
being offline because of the wind. They can't call him
exactly.
directly.
So many things they set up to make this scenario somewhat plausible that they would, because they don't forget him, they just overlook him. And they have to do it in such a way that the parents don't
Yeah.
seem like awful people. And they have to do it in such a way that, Kevin believes he has wished his parents away and it's all kind of got to work. And it does. And it doesn't do that by accident. It doesn't do that by being silly. It does that through screenwriting effort, where they go to all of these lengths to escalate this into a way that seems somewhat believable.
It's really easy, and we've seen it in films we've watched where they could have just hand waved it away.
That's what you
But
do now. That's what
yeah,
any modern screenwriter would do. They'd be like, I need this premise to work. It's a bit goofy. I'm going to hand wave it. And instead, back here, they're like, I'm going to pour effort into it to make it work. It's a completely different approach and one that I appreciate.
and even like later on in the film where like you see him make choices to say like he's not like alone, but he doesn't do that because he's brave. He does it because he's afraid. Like the cops come around or people try to check on him or people ask him questions. It's not like he reacts believably to that, in my opinion. I remember, long story short, when I was a kid, I was home alone very, very briefly because my mom was going to the shop. There was a knock at the door. I instinct said, "Who's there?" Then freaked out and hid under a table
Yeah.
because I just, it was a kid reaction, right? It was like I was roughly the same age as probably Kevin was. And your brain works differently to that. But I also want to give a real big shout out to the villains in this movie, Harry and Marv. They could have not worked in so many different ways in this film, both in writing and acting. Like, they could have been too scary. They might not have been scary enough. The goofiness might have overridden it completely. But you get a performance that I think is now recognized as probably much better than it was back then from Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern. That is actually brilliant.
It is. It's a tightrope walk, like you say. It's a tightrope walk the whole way through of threat versus comedy versus the idea that are they silly, are they dangerous? They're both. They're everything. They're all these things all the time. And the other thing is, obviously, Joe Pesci, for the adults in the crowd, it's funny because he was known for these more adult tough guy kind of roles. But kids don't know that. They just need the character to work on the page and on the screen, and it does. So I do think that they are both doing really good work. And I think as well, that's also where there would have been a real danger in just making them really broad and silly the whole time. And they deliberately don't do that. They give them quite an edge right throughout the movie to make them threatening for Kevin. And again, I think that's something that they've chosen the route of effort. They've chosen the route of rounding out these characters, and therefore, when they do have moments of comedy, then that plays as well. But it's not like they're entirely comedic. They're really not. They have that real edge to them, which I think was genius. So,
I was thinking about Joe Pesci when I was watching this movie again. And I'm like, in my head, yeah, he's kind of gangster movies, serious actor, and that sort of stuff. And I just did a quick scroll. He's probably done more comedic things now in his career, but he's quite often the comedic type character in a serious movie sometimes as well. Like, he's a little bit weird or strange or odd, or My Cousin Vinny, which is definitely an adult movie, but he plays kind of this fast talking, wisecracking comedic kind of character. But yeah, it really interested me that, yeah, adults do have this thought of Joe Pesci as this kind of serious Oscar-winning actor, right? And then he plays this role in this movie, and it fits perfectly into a kid's film.
yeah. And then you also have almost the knee jerk that shouldn't work at all, where I've just talked about the integrity of the screenplay, right? Which seems
Mm-hmm.
kind of crazy for Home Alone, but it's true, right? And we talk about, the wet bandits, and we talk about the first act and getting everything set up. And then at the same time, the movie is also doing stuff like Kevin narrates his own life to himself. He looks directly into the camera and says things as if to the audience, to the child audience. He breaks the fourth wall, not frequently, but every now and again, in a way that is just super unusual, that shouldn't really work with the other tones that we've talked about, and yet somehow it does. It just all jives together. And I think as well, that's where the genius of this film is the idea of perspective. We talked about that with Greenland last week,
Yes.
and the idea that perspective was important there. Well, perspective's super important here as well, because what Home Alone does is you feel what Kevin feels throughout the whole movie. You are in his shoes, feeling his elation. You are feeling his, fear when it occurs. You're feeling his emotion, and he's verbalizing that to you. And again, shouldn't work, but something really charming about the 8-year-old Macaulay Culkin makes it work for you. And it was a big swing when you consider the rest of the movie, and it could have really made everything not work. All the good stuff we just talked about, this could have completely tanked it. But again, the charm of that 8-year-old Macaulay Culkin and the confidence with which they do these moments seems to get you through.
there's that brief period when he is first home alone. He thinks his wish come true. That I had a flashback to another movie we watched very briefly, just because of the self narration and the way he went about it, and the way the world kind of revolved around him for a small amount of time. That was the Truman Show. It
Mm.
had this feel of kind of us existentially watching in, more than you normally get in a film. And you're right, it does work. This movie has a few little turns in tone and point and style, and they all kind of really work. Like, if you were watching this movie for the first time in 1990 and you're in the first opening act and somehow you'd missed the title and you're watching kind of the family, you'd expecting this family comedy drama that's going to happen right over Christmas, and then you cut very quickly to the kind of Home Alone, he's by himself, abandonment, but funny and happy. Then the crime drama and crime comedy. It's a great amalgamation. It's very fun. And I think because of all those different styles you said before, it moves really fast, and then because of its well written nature, it holds it all in.
I think as well, like this movie is really a movie that is Christmas the movie.
Yeah.
And everything that you could think of with Christmas is in this film. Kevin is always wearing either red or green Christmas
Yeah.
colors throughout the whole movie. There are Christmas lights everywhere. There's snow throughout like every single scene. In the sort of epilogue, it's snowing outside, and they look at all of Christmas. There's a scene with Santa where he's talking to Santa, and yes, it's the sort of department store Santa kind of thing, and it's quite
I know
humorous
you're
in
not
that
really
sense.
Santa, but I know you work for him.
Exactly, like so they go to the Santa place, but then they also go to the idea of church and church at Christmas and that sort of thing. And I, as someone who has a faith myself, I really appreciated that. They actually looked at archetypical tropes of the idea of the church is sanctuary. Marv and Harry won't go into the church. They say it. They're like, I'm not going in there. Like, because they obviously representing evil, and Kevin is safe there. They even have a scene which you can just imagine, like, unfortunately, this would never go through a modern movie, but they literally have a scene where they're like, you're always welcome at church. And they
Yeah.
talk about it while sitting in church. And I just thought, man, that's nice. Isn't that nice to actually see it represented that way? And it's the calming choir, and Kevin feels safe there. And, it's the moment where he sort of reconciles with, old man Marley. I really appreciated that they looked at Christmas holistically, and they looked at, here's everything about Christmas. Let's do it.
But they looked at Christmas from the point of view of a child.
Mm.
Christmas is all those things to a child. Church is that thing to a child. It's the big safe place. It's the place where, the nice people are that can help you. It's this place where the kind of the nativity is. It's the place where kind of is intrinsically a part of Christmas, obviously to Kevin, and to a lot of people who grow up. So yeah, it is kind of that whole thing of like everything in this movie is through the lens of Kevin the child. And I don't think a single part of that is the child aspect is missed throughout this film. There's no point where that switches and you go, that's how an adult would do it. It's always how a kid would look at it or a kid would feel it.
Yeah, and I also look at this movie as well and sort of say it's kind of unusual in a good way, where usually when you look at the second act of a film, the character encounters adversity, and they end up at their lowest point towards the end of Act 2, right before they head into Act 3 for the finale. Home Alone is a little bit different in that Kevin has a lot of small moments of adversity throughout the film that he then overcomes, and the finale in Act 3 becomes his final test, right? He's already completed all of these micro tests of going shopping and of doing laundry and of cleaning up the house and of cooking for himself, all of these things that he couldn't do at the start of the movie. And he's had small victory, small victory, small victory, one step back where he gets done for shoplifting. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and the bags break on him, right? So he does have adversity, but he's actually growing. He's becoming throughout the entire movie until he faces his final test and becomes his final form, if you like, when he faces the wet bandits and defeats them in the finale of the movie. But he's got all of these skills that he's learned along the way that empower him and embolden him to actually take them on at the end of the film and kind of overcome his fear. So I really appreciated that as well, because it's the idea that you don't have to do that in what is functionally a kids' comedy movie, right? And so many writers wouldn't bother. And yet they took great pains to actually give him this arc to level him up. And so that when he gets to the finale, it's not just, oh, we got to get to the end where he defeats the bad guys. It's like, well, actually, now he has the skills and the ability to do that he did not have and did not possess at the start of the film, which is just really great character development. So I appreciate that as well.
I want to highlight the laundry that you mentioned because that is the most relatable thing in this movie to me as a child. I grew up in a two-story Queenslander, and underneath my house was scary. And it had imaginary dangers and shadows and creepy things. And the whole thing of the, I think it's his thermostat or that's the house's heater.
It's the furnace. We don't
Furnace,
really,
yeah, furnace.
I think, like, we don't really have that in
And
Australia.
he's kind of anthropomorphized, tough word.
Anthropomorphized.
Thank you. This whole thing into this monstrous thing. And then you see him have this moment of revelation where it just becomes normal, where he kind of tells it to shut up. And it is just because it made a noise. It makes creepy noises and your brain builds on that. I relate to that so much and have had countless moments like that as a child and maybe even an adult. So I really wanted to highlight that as a really crafty piece of script that really does illustrate a lot of his growth.
Yeah. So it does have this sort of mishmash of tones that shouldn't work, yet somehow it does. One thing that I think should not be understated is the work of John Williams' score in order to actually bring all of these threads together and make them work. And really, really does a lot of work tying together all of these different tones as we bounce from one storyline to the other. So he obviously does a great job at creating tension while never losing sight of the idea that it's Christmas time. Even the opening, I guess, overture, it's sort of tense and it's a little bit mysterious and it's something's going to happen, but it's also very clearly Christmas inspired. And then when we get a bit later into the film, there's obviously two big musical moments that kind of stand out. The, I guess, main theme of the movie, John Williams crazily wrote for the movie, which is Somewhere in My Memory. And it's the main theme, which they then put a choir to. And it's literally this little song that is all about what Christmas feels like. And that is the thing that we hear time and time again. And then they mix that with Carol of the Bells when things get more intense towards the end of the second act.
Carol of the Bells is the one that really sticks in my brain when I think of this movie. That kind of that weaving and that arrangement as he's kind of running home and kind of
preparing for battle,
preparing for war.
Yeah.
And you get this kind of this wonderful arrangement of what is a church bell song, like this kind of hand bells. Like
it starts there and then it balloons into this wider sort of, tense battle cry sequence as he sort of gets going. And again, who would think to do that, to take the one thing and then to morph it over the course of a few minutes into something else? But yes, it works beautifully well. So and again, I think as well, Somewhere in My Memory could be this kind of awful schmaltzy song, but it's not. It plays as really heartfelt and it does a lot of the emotional heavy lifting of the movie in several key places. So John Williams, again, you would think, oh yes, he's a master because of Star Wars, because of Jaws, because of all of these movies. And then you go, well, actually, he's doing some pretty masterful work
Yeah.
here in this kids' comedy as well to try and tie all of this stuff together and, shall we say, put a bow on it, to use a Christmas analogy there. But he does it beautifully well. It doesn't have to be as good as it is, which is kind of what this is really the theme of
Yeah.
this whole podcast and really the whole movie. It's like, it shouldn't be as good as it is. Like, people these days would not put this level of care into every aspect of this production, but for Home Alone they did, and that is why it works.
A couple of things I want to mention that I've still got in my notes. The first is this movie also has, it's a weird category, but it's also famous for having one of the most famous movies within a movie.
Yeah.
And that is Angels with Filthy Souls, which was wholly made up for this film, but it's the gangster movie that Kevin watches throughout this whole thing and uses even to scare away the wet bandits on occasion. This, I didn't realize that wasn't a real movie until I was an adult. I thought they had just licensed a real movie and were just playing it in sections. And it came to even the point where I looked for that movie and then found out it wasn't a real movie. All that exists of that movie is in this movie. And I just think it's a wonderful detail. It shows you, again, the effort, right? They could have just licensed an old black and white gangster movie and put it in, but they wanted something specific and they went and made it.
Well, I think they had to, though, because
Yeah.
you look at the specific way that one scene of dialogue works for the pizza boy, it works for Marv at the door, it works for his initial just being scared of it, and it has to do so many things in different contextual moments that they probably had to they would have been forever trying to find something that fit all of those boxes.
Yeah.
So I do think they had to make it themselves. But again, what they made was beautiful in the sense that it works for every single one of those moments. It pulls double, triple duty to get all of these scenes happening. But I think that also kind of raises me to one of the things that I wanted to say about the movie, which is, at what age should kids be exposed to this film? Because it is a toughie. At the start, the family is awful. It's awful. And they trust the viewer that you aren't going to walk out, right? Because this is one of those movies where it's like, it pays off at the end. They all come around. Everything works out. But my goodness, they are terrible to each other at the start of the film.
I don't know why anyone in the McAllister family still hangs out with that uncle.
Yeah.
He is a horrible human.
He's so bad.
And in the second one, I remember him being awful too.
Yeah. But like, it's just, and it's like every single time he's on screen, he's doing something awful, whether he's stealing the crystal salt and pepper shakers on the plane, whether he's taking the shrimp that is for later and just offering it to everybody and ignoring everyone, whether he's literally calling the 8-year-old a little jerk and yelling at him in front of the whole family.
In his face.
In his face. And by the way, much as I said they did a lot to make the parents seem not awful, the fact that they don't stick up for him in that moment is pretty bad.
Hashtag Kevin did nothing wrong.
I know, but that's where the perspective comes in. We're on his side. We're from his perspective. But so you take that, the idea that we have all of these people being really awful to each other at the start of the film. And then you pair that with the kind of extreme violence at the end of the movie. I mean, you see a nail go into Marv's foot. You watch for several seconds, Joe Pesci's head catch fire, like for several seconds in an extended kind of way.
I was going to ask you, of all the traps, which one would you least like to do? The nail is mine. I don't want anything to do with that nail.
I think it's either the nail or it's the blowtorch to the head. Both of those would be very bad. So, but look, several of them would kill you. Let's just be honest. You would just be dead if several of those things happen. But it all comes back to this idea of, look, I love the movie, but it kind of feels like, for your child to have maximum enjoyment out of the film, they kind of have to watch it before you're ready for them to watch it.
Yeah,
Those two things kind of have to go together.
I'm not a parent. I am an uncle. It's the sort of thing, like, I think you just have to judge it on the kid, right?
Yeah.
I don't think there's a set age. Like, as long as you can explain to the kid, hey man, setting up traps isn't okay, and we're never going to leave you alone at home, and they can get that, they can definitely enjoy this film, because this film is at its core enjoyable to kids because of the power fantasy, right?
Yeah.
Like, a kid doing all of this and succeeding is exciting, because that's not what you normally see. You know, not to this level, at least, right? Like, the bad guys being adults, and a kid getting one up on them all the time is the exciting part on this film. Is the little bit of the engine in the middle. But yeah, it's a tough question, a really tough question.
It is a great film. I certainly probably saw it far too young, but again, when do you watch Home Alone? It's that's a poll question if I ever heard one. Like, it's like, at what age do you introduce Home Alone to
When
your
you want
children?
your kid to be ready for intruders, that's when.
Yeah, well, yeah. So
I also, sorry. I also want to bring up just one last thing about the perfect kind of pulling together of this film. Um, I think maybe, strangely enough, the casting of Roberts Blossom as Mr. Marley is maybe the most genius thing ever in this film. It's subtle, it's quiet. He does 100% look like that outside of this movie. So they definitely got the right guy. But his switch to kind of gentle gruff in the church, and Kevin kind of looking past the exterior, I think is just wonderfully played by the actor himself.
that scene is my favorite scene in the movie when they're
It's
sitting
much
in the
sadder
church.
when you're an adult too.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. When you actually can get some idea of what that actually means, for
Yeah.
him and his family. But like, that scene, it's everything about it. It's the way that it's staged. It's the reconciliation. It's the advice that they give to each other. It's the fact that it's in the sanctuary of the church, which I talked about earlier. Like, of all the crazy stuff in this movie and of all the stuff that I've talked about that I think is great structurally, that scene is my favorite. And it's the scene that sticks with you in the whole film, I think, as being a really special moment for the characters.
Uh, I keep saying last thing, but last thing, John Candy's in this film. I love John Candy, and this isn't a traditional John Candy role. It very much feels like a favor to either the director or the writer of this film. It's very small, but it's so integral in that he kind of offers support to Kevin's mum when she least expects it, and in a way that she doesn't expect it. Like, he's just this cool guy who's like, holidays are tough, family's tough, you're going to get home to your kid and we're going to help. And I just think it's really nice.
I was going to say, what do you think the chances are? And I don't know the answer to this, but what do you think the chances are that the riff of him leaving his child at the funeral parlor all day,
100%.
you reckon that was improvised? That just feels like a John Candy improvised run. I don't think the whole scene where he's talking about how, oh, look, we've all got family problems, I'd say that's scripted, but the part where he just goes deep on his own version, where he left his kid at the funeral parlor for the day, I'm like, this feels like an insane improvisation from a skilled comedic actor. And I don't know I'd love to check the
It
original
didn't
script,
quite
but
get there, but it could have, in less competent hands, very much steered into the chimney story from Gremlins.
yeah, it's close, isn't it? Like,
Yeah, it's
it's close.
close.
And I just love how he ends the scene where he's like, oh, I don't know, I'm just trying to help you, you brought it up. Like, it's just like, so good. So good. Look, I really enjoyed the trip down memory lane watching Home Alone. I have also got a Christmas surprise wrapped up for you as my next movie pick, and I can't wait to reveal it. So, can you tell the good people of the interwebs where they could find the rest of our podcasts in this Christmas season? And then I don't know how you're gonna react to this, but I'm
Not
gonna give
excited,
you.
just quietly. I'm not excited.
I'm excited. I'm excited for the next pick.
Well, if you want to see something I am excited about, it's all the podcasts we've done before, and you can find them at Jim and Ben's Movie Adventures. That works on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. Check out our last podcast, check out our entire catalog. There's definitely movies you've watched, maybe movies you've always wanted to watch but needed a reason to, and we can be that reason. If you want to follow us on any sort of social media, you can do so at Jim_and_Ben for Instagram and Jim and Ben's Movie Adventures on TikTok. Any of these locations, please like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what your favorite Christmas movie is. Let us know what movies we should be watching, and let us know what you thought of Home Alone. I'd really appreciate it. Would you let your kid watch Home Alone at the age of 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 43? Let us know. All right, Jim, hit me. Hit me with your Christmas movie.
So, I could have gone traditional. I could have said,
Die Hard.
It's a Wonderful Life. We could have said Die Hard. We could have said The Grinch. But, for millions of people, not me, but for millions of people, Christmas is about a particular type of movie produced by a particular
Are we watching a Rankin and Bass?
No. Look, produced by a particular cable network in the USA. That network, it's Hallmark. It's Hallmark, right? Hallmark produces a record amount of Christmas movies per year. And they are apparently quite bad. And I've never seen one, ever, right? And
I'm excited.
I said...
I'm back to excited.
Okay, right? And I just went, you know what? Let's do it. This is Christmas for so many people, the idea of a Hallmark Christmas movie. So I did some research. And first of all, it was like, should we watch one that's like a so bad it's good? And I said, no, we're not going to do that.
Are we watching the best?
We're just going to watch a run-of-the-mill, standard, Hallmark movie that has all of the tropes and trappings. It's not self-aware, apparently. I haven't watched it. I'm not going to watch it twice, right? So I haven't watched it. It's apparently just, this is the quintessential Hallmark movie. So you can't even find this on Wikipedia, can I just say, because these things are all on like network cable, and they make like 80 of them a year or something. So I'm not going to bury the lead any further. You have to find and watch A Maple Valley Christmas, which is from 2022. It's a Hallmark Christmas movie, and I'm going to give you the 2-sentence version of what it is we're about to see.
She's wearing a cowboy hat.
Yeah, you ready? Erica is a rancher who has spent her whole life working the family farm with her mother and sister. When Aaron arrives and disrupts her plans, she starts to question what it is she really wants this Christmas. So I just, like, how good is this going to be?
First of all, I want to say, well played, sir. You have really gotten into the spirit of this podcast and the season, and I'm proud of you.
The other thing is, it's only an hour and 25 minutes long. So, like, however bad this thing is going to be, and I'm preloading that it's going to be bad. Maybe it's going to be great. Maybe we're going to be pleasantly surprised. I have no expectations. Never seen a Hallmark Christmas movie, but that all changes this week when we watch A Maple Valley Christmas. So hopefully you will join us. And I can't wait to discuss whatever it is we're going to find when we unwrap this movie under the Christmas tree.
Thank you very much, everyone. And I can't wait to unwrap it as well. See you next time.
Bye.